Don't worry, ma'am. I'm with Foundry Files.
Welcome to the Foundry Files. I'm Wee Wee, and there's is that direction.
Hi. Wow, it smells a lot better here since you finally got a change of clothes. Thanks, man. Thumbs up to you. But anyway, I guess
yeah. Kind of deserve that for the past few weeks. But anyway,
yeah. Hey,
we're actually going to put a bit of news.
There's some news. So we shot this like yesterday, and the recording died probably because of fate. No, it's fate, dude. Because there was no Foundry news except for dilithium exploit crap that we didn't want to talk about because it's boring and nobody cares. So, but now there's news. So hey, Wee Wee, what's our news? What do we got?
We got a Spotlight mission. Shipwrecked, a Klingon mission by Greg with 2 Gs, 247. A small, frozen, seemingly unexceptional planet near the Hatorius system is the key to a nearly endless supply of energy. The Klingon Empire, desperately in need of resources for their ongoing war efforts, has assigned you to assist General Komako on a detailed geological survey expedition.
Wow, they assigned me to that. Well, that
Level
ship's
16
screwed.
plus, which shouldn't really make a difference nowadays, but it will in Legacy of Romulus, but never mind.
Yeah, I mean, come on, people. If you don't have a VA, what are you doing? Like, there's been XP boost and certain exploits that will not be named and other stuff. But anyway, then we've got a Foundry Tribble update, which probably, most definitely likely means it's coming over to Holodeck very shortly. It's a bunch of map updates.
Yeah, it's a bunch of map updates. This is part of Tribble, so therefore it will come out with Legacy of Romulus. They've added template maps that will have proper pathing information after they are published. A whole bunch of things like Briar Patch, Ice Caves, Agilis 2, that sort of thing, a Borg interior. So Boss will actually be able to run around them properly instead of getting stuck into a wall or a door.
Oh yeah, I recognize these maps that I have used and their pathing sucks because like every other comment I got on my mission's like, it was a great mission except the boss pathing sucked.
Do you remember, what was it, Rise of Darkness Part 2 I think it was, where Boss kept them stuck in the...
Well, that's what ruined the mission for me. Like, one, it was long and wordy, but then I get to that part where it's kind of necessary for you to have your boss, and it's just like, this is bad, my boss aren't even moving a foot.
Yeah, I think it was kind of fixed since then, kind of, because I think they're putting a bit of pathing to go around the different walls. I mean, I remember when the Foundry initially came out, the walls, you could simply shoot right through them, which wasn't good. So I think a lot of development's come to that area, so it's really progressed along since then.
Hey, this is the big one. It's the big one!
I did an alien gen operation to the species drop-down menu for both ground and space NPC groups.
Thank you. Hallelujah. You know how many people like reskin for aliens and there's never been an alien group? It's always like, let's reskin the Cleons and then they'll do stuff. I'm curious to see what abilities this alien group will have though.
Space will probably have that kind of a ship. Do you know the NPC ship that has no metaphasic shield?
Where it makes it invulnerable.
Yeah, we weren't able to get that until I think it was the Ferengi Soul.
Yeah, but I don't know what the ground abilities have been because I haven't. I've taken on like the five group kills and like those exploration clusters, but never.
I remember back in the days when it was back on my first Klingon characters. I was playing the exploration clusters back when they actually meant something.
Before season 1.
on the ground, traditionally alien gen groups would use disruptors, with like a bit like the Klingons. So I could kind of see these groups similar to Klingons. They definitely have disruptors. But I'm not sure if they changed in those couple of years because it has been that long. But it's up to you. But I'm predicting disruptors, which would be very nice because I like disruptors. I'm not just saying. But
He's just saying.
Expect that kind of a thing. It'll be a bit like Klingons.
But that's all the news we got for this week. Now we've got our conclusion review of Revo's series, where we play Into the Nightmare.
And on to our review for this week. Why do I say review and Revo at the same time? I don't know. We are doing
Revo, get a name change token.
Part 5, Into the Nightmare, with 1,537 players, as is recording, of course, and an average star rating of 4.19. I think I've had that number quite a few times, actually.
I typed it in when we were writing up the show doc. I go to WeWe. You know what? I've typed this number like 6 times, I think. I'll have to go back and check. So, another plug for the 5-star rating system. But, you know, the one problem I do have with this series, I just want to start off because I mentioned it. I didn't mention it when we shot this before, but this series doesn't have an overall title, does it? It just has the parts named. There's not like one overall title, so it's hard. We just call it Revo's Cleon series, even though I think he has 2. We need an overall title, dude. If you have one, let us know. But anyway,
just call it Into the Nightmare series.
All right, Into the Nightmare series. But anyway, we have an important task for you Cleon players out there. You need to save the honor of the Empire by kissing a Tribble and taking the fight into the Traveler's Realm to defeat the Fakiri and the Herc. In a reality of imagination, can you imagine them to death? See, now that's how you read spotlight missions and stuff like that. I'm just saying, like that, it's brilliant. Now everybody's going to go play it. They don't even need to watch the rest of the show, but please do watch the rest of the show. Thank you. It's a very great plot to wrap things up. It's not as amazing as Part 4, but Part 5 is still a pretty good ending to the series. What did you think?
I thought that I'd have to agree with you, but this is kind of something that
it's an expected ending, I guess.
Yeah, it's expected, for lack of a better phrase. You look back at some of the future episode series. You look at some of the actual Star Trek episodes, the 2 multi-part episodes, and you think this part was better than the final part. Best of both worlds. I've seen quite a few people like actually part 1 better than part 2 because the entire episode is nothing but tension. And part 2, you kind of could expect it. It's like, well, they're going to defeat the Borg, yeah, but are they going? But the only mystery there was were they going to kill Picard or not?
Yeah.
This series, well, actually no, the feature episode series, Coliseum and Facility 4028, 2 of probably the best missions out of those respective series. Those are part 4. The part after that is something you would kind of expect.
I'm gonna argue Romulan series where Sela gets kidnapped. That was, I think, they're kind of jabbing there to throw you off.
I was gonna point out there's always a couple of surprises or twists in the final part just to make it better. But
there really wasn't a surprise.
You would always expect to defeat the bad guy at some point. The major twist, I would say, in some kind of series is the guy escapes and comes back for another day. So it's no offense to any the series or any of the series out there, but it was actually kind of expected.
It's still a great ending, and you should definitely play it.
It's
just
still
nothing
really creative.
different.
The way it's paved out, but it's kind of expected.
The only other complaint I'm going to say is there's one big plot hole. So apparently the Traveler's Realm is created based on imagination and thought and stuff. So the reason the Fakiri were created is because they were thought up, as you learned in Part 4, so I could say it. It's not a story spoiler. Remember, we spoiled the previous parts, so we didn't throw that in at the beginning, sorry. But anyway, if this is a realm where imagination is power, why don't we just imagine the bad guys to death? Because then we don't need to fight them. So you just go in and go I imagine you dead. Done.
There's a hole in that theory, though. Actually.
No, there isn't.
Think about it.
Okay, go.
You imagine the enemy leader to be dead.
All right. Yeah, I'm thinking.
Enemy leader.
I'm thinking Wee Wee's dead.
Be alive, right? Because he wants to survive. In return, he's going to imagine you to be dead. But
so you both die.
But No, because you are imagining to defeat the enemy, you imagine yourself to survive as well. It cancels itself out. It's a paradoxical loop.
But okay, another way of looking at it is if you think both of the people to death, then would they both die? Or whoever thinks the other one to death first wins. It's like gunslingers.
Not really, because it just doesn't make any sense. It cancels itself out with each other's survivability and bent on destruction in a sense of the other person.
All right, I don't want to make Wee Wee lose this debate, so we're gonna move on. There are good characters throughout the series. None of them are like super amazing though. Like Obasek, that's like the prime example of one of the best characters in the game, because everybody remembers him because he was such a memorable character. Now you're not gonna have that with this series, but you're gonna remember them more than like the Breen bad guy from the Breen series. I mean, nobody knows who the hell that was. Well, Wee Wee does, but he's weird. But so they aren't bad. There's definitely the good thing is the characters throughout the series have effort put into them. They're not here just to tell you to go shoot the Cleons over there and then move on with your life. They actually have stories and emotions and stuff like that right into them.
Like the Orion and the Traveler person.
Yep. Well-written dialogue for the mission. We especially look at this with Cleons because a lot of missions out there, it's easy for a Fed author, because there's more of them out there and it's easier to write for, to hop over to the Cleon side and write a mission, but it doesn't have that Cleon feel. The entire series has that Cleon feel,
yeah.
Especially in the dialogue. I don't know if it's the best example of Cleon writing, but it's still good.
Yeah, traditionally I find Klingon missions that spice it up with maybe a few Klingon phrases or more aggressive tones without being stupidly aggressive, like I'm going to kill you because I'm a Klingon. No.
That's what I do. I'm a Klingon. Shoot it.
That's why he's not a Klingon author.
No.
But that's kind of thing, like I said, I think that really spices it up to be a Klingon, more aggressive. Alternate dialogue is primarily suggested for multi-races like the Orions and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's the other part about Cleons is it's much difficult to write for because you don't know what alien race their boff's going to be. Because I know my problem, especially with cryptic missions, is none of my boffs except for one are Cleon, and they all speak like Cleon and that they believe the Cleon way, and it just really throws me off. And
yeah, the Feds kind of have that problem as well, but the difference there is only one or two species would have that.
Like Vulcans.
Playable Klingon and Vulcans, who are pretty logical. The rest would simply go, we are a Federation, we want to be kind to everyone and be peace. Let's blow you up first, though.
It's a good thing I don't have Vulcans on my crew. There's some good can usage in this mission. No contradictions there. And some good touchstoning on the Traveler, the Undine, Fakiri, and a whole bunch. The nice thing about the touchstoning in this series is he's pulling from a lot of different sources and mixing it together in a way that it fits. Which is nice, because you don't think, like... This was covered in part 4, but the Traveler's realm is where all the Fakiri were created. And when you think about it that way, it makes sense because it's mythology. But it could be created in a reality like this where a mythology, the imagination, can become real. So it was really cool to see something like that. No spelling and grammar errors. Story scored an 8.86. Oh, no. It tied 8th place with the For Every Action Part 1. And Dead Man Tell No Tales. Great. So now Wee Wee's gonna wet himself.
My next objective is to find a mission that ties 4 ways now.
You heard it here first. Wee Wee likes 4 ways. So in technical, the author made some pretty good maps. The ones that are gonna really make your jaw drop, though, are the space maps. They were definitely well put together, especially when you go into the Traveler's realm, where it's just like the planet there looming, and you got stars streaking back, and he used the backdrop of like fluidic space, and it's pretty sweet. And I loved that. And he pulls off some really cool stuff with that planet that I loved. The transitions are good. Blah, 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 really nothing there. It's just basically you're not going to get bored at the loading screens, and there's not really any pointless maps except for maybe the bridge scene at the end.
You transition at pretty good points, I'd say. You would expect to transition at this point, and it's not like we're going to click this and move to the next map because there's a different sort of screen. It's pretty logical, pretty reasonable, and you would expect to transition when you do. So it's actually pretty good in this bit.
So... the author showed very good technique and knowledge of the Foundry. There is one part, though, we would recommend changing up a bit. I'll let Wee Wee cover this, but it has to do with the skinning of the ships.
Yeah. The thing about it is, you are essentially fighting alongside another KDF fleet. It's not only comprised of Klingon ships, but Nausicaans, Orions, Gorn ships, that sort of thing.
The whole alliance.
Yeah, this the modern alliance of the Klingon Empire. The thing about it is, in this mission, they're all reskinned as Klingon mobs. But Nausicaans, Gorn, and Orion have their own mobs. And in the Foundry, they've been pre-programmed to work with each other in the same types. That's why you can't have an easy to go with Gorn Rebellion or Orion Rebellion or something like that.
Yeah.
You can't put those two groups against each other because they're just going to sit and look at each other and say, we're friends. But yeah.
I don't want to shoot you, man. Oh, man.
That's why you reskin.
I love you.
In this mission, though, because they're working together, there's no need to skin them as Klingons. You can just put them as yourself.
So it was a lot of extra work.
Wasn't that done in the first place? It's
weird.
It's kind of a thing. And actually, there's another one there. I think the Fakiri does this as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Fakiri and the Herc, they're allied with each other, and they're reskinned as Romulans.
Is there a Herc NPC group? Wait.
No,
they were just what?
He just used the generic alien things because unfortunately you can't customize ships.
Well, at the time he made this, there wasn't the generic alien thing because it came out, so he used Romulans, was it?
Yeah, he used Romulan skins.
Okay.
But Fakiri were already present. They were already a present group in the Foundry.
Yeah, so why didn't he skin them as Fakiri,
Exactly,
the Fakiri ships instead of Romulans?
And if anything, it would make more sense considering the amount of anti-protons and stuff they would things and the amount of gas and the amount of plasma they would spew out of their ships. It's actually ridiculous what stuff the Fakiri split out of their ships. And it's like, why didn't you just put them as Fakiri? Because it makes more sense for the groups.
And he keeps them separated. But if you got, I know during the first space battle where they're kind of close to each other, I had the Romulan ship within, or the Herc ship within range. And if it just got a little closer and I ended up blowing up or something, it would have engaged the Fakiri ship and it would have made it weird. It's like, why are the Herc fighting the Fakiri now when they're on the same side? So that's just something you want to look at. I kind of see why they might want to do that, just to give the Herc different like weapons and abilities. But again, they're going to attack each other. So that could be a problem. Really great art asset usage in this one, especially when you go into the imagination realm, or whatever it's called. You go through the gateway, and it's like the donut rock from like cutting the cord, but it's smaller, and it's got like an anomaly on the inside to make it a little spiced up, so it's not just a weird donut whole thing. And then
which by the way, I would actually just a little pointer, you can now put FX of the different portals, alternate universe and time portals.
Oh yeah, so now you can have one of those.
You can actually update that anomaly to do that. Just saying.
But it's working the way it is, because I really did like that effect. And then it's got like structures in the edge. Yeah, it was a really cool gateway to see. And then also he built, like, when you go down to like one of the colonies, it might have been Gorn or something, I forget, but there's like bridges connecting the buildings. That was really cool to see too. So some nice creative ways to create these maps. Speaking of creativity, there was really great creativity in the maps and stuff like that. Really loved seeing some of the stuff, and especially in some of the effects where like stuff's blowing up or stuff like that. Really did like seeing that. What did you think?
I'm actually more impressed by the technical stuff in this, but that kind of leads into, I wasn't as impressed creativity-wise in the story and the gameplay as I was
in part 4.
Parts, more so on the technical stuff. But there are some extremely creative things, both story and gameplay reasons at the end, which I'll get into in a little bit, which really make that. But the rest of it isn't as creative as I've seen in the previous missions. It's mainly the technical side of stuff, which I find pretty creative in this mission. So.
Yep.
Brilliant there.
All right, the user help was fine, though we did have a few problems with it.
And there's nothing wrong with the user help, but there's nothing brilliant with it. The only thing wrong with it is the fact that you need to mention which map you're going to when you start the mission.
Oh yeah, right. I didn't notice that.
Like a billion times in the initial dialogue and subsequent dialogue that you choose the sector space. But if you don't put it in the actual mission journal, it's like where you're going. It's like an overall summary. It's like something random you're going to put down. Like, people could get easily lost because they didn't read properly. So that kind of a thing needs updating, and the rest of it is, as I said, not bad, but it's not good either. There's nothing really spectacular. Waypoints, you see where you're going, but there's nothing detailed, which kind of weren't necessary or needed, but even still.
I'm going to give it an extra boost here, though, because one thing I did like was when you go down to the Herc base or whatever, it's like the old Cleon and Kronos building, whatever it was, the High Council room. The weird thing that looked like a university. But anyway, you're down there, and he has you searching for the big bad guy. but he doesn't have the waypoint on the map, the circle. So you kind of have to do some exploring. But he has the map set up in such a nice way that it's pretty obvious. You follow this path and you'll eventually reach him. So that was cool to see.
Yeah, that was a point where actually you don't take that away from him. You actually commend him for that.
Yep.
Because you go to look for him. You don't know where he is. So.
Yeah, as long as you're not getting lost, that part really works. There's some ship skinning limitations in this. It's just the Murphy virus, whatever. So and then guess what? Technical scored a 7.65, our 16th ranked in the technical section. So pretty good work there. A few improvements could be added there to make it a little better, but overall it's still working. On to gameplay with Mr. Wee Wee. Go.
Well, let's start off with a few basics, shall we? As we always do.
Basics, okay.
You don't understand basics, but space gameplay of this mission was, I'd say, pretty average. Nothing special besides the usual reach markers and interactive objects. I'd say probably the best bits of space was safe the space combat. I think you agree
Definitely.
On that.
Yep.
Because the space combat was excellent. Plenty of epic space battles with multiple factions. Perk and Fakiri, both reskinned with Romans instead of Fakiri, as addressed earlier. So actually expect plasma fires everywhere. You're going to be on fire, so Hazard Emitter is your best friend in here. And of course you have your own allies from the various factions as well. There is a bit of ground in this as well. Ground gameplay was interesting. The thing about it is, in this mission, unusually, this part of the series suffers from a lack of ground optional interactable objects, yet optional dialogue is present.
Yeah, there's like a few people you could have talked to, like the one that's like chained up, or the Orion who's like, "Oh my God, save me!"
I can constitute the fact that in the ground ones, I didn't really need it, but even still, maybe you could find a place to have an option there, but don't make it too forced. I don't know, but in this mission,
it seemed fine without it.
There's no puzzles again, but this ground gameplay mostly retains the strong gameplay elements seen throughout the series, but I'd say it's not as strong as some of the other parts we've seen.
Yeah.
Especially part 4 as well, so... You
know what, I was fine with it. You were just storming in there to kill the bad guy. Maybe a puzzle to get past an obstacle to mix it up, but it's working fine that way. But the ground combat was quite fun. I enjoyed it.
I'd say it was generally good, yeah. Tactics are required in some instances, but the end boss fight is one of the best we've seen. It's extremely creative. There are multiple groups you have to fight. Other instances have multi-stack groups which are present, which is pretty good. If only in 1 or 2 cases, but it is better addition compared to previous parts. So it's kind of unusual, this mission, really, isn't it, in terms of gameplay, because it's kind of flipped of where it is in previous parts.
Yeah.
So he kind of puts stuff in there which should have been there all along, but kind of takes away the few stuff which were really good. But again, I'd say it was generally good combat overall and gameplay and all that kind of stuff. But the most important thing,
replayability.
Hang on, let me do that bit again. Edit that.
Man, I have to edit it. I might not.
Yes.
If I don't edit, guys, sorry. I'm gonna be Haverhoff for the day.
Replayability is strong with this one. There is no alternate ending present, and the player decides what choice they want to make. So, which will you choose? Preferably not one that douchebag over there.
Hey, I made the right choice. As a Cleon, I killed everything, so that's the ending everybody should choose. If you don't, you're not Cleon. No honor to you.
And that's why you don't choose what he's going to do. Just saying. Overall, gameplay scored an 8. Basically, in 8th place. 8.0.
Wow, that's a pretty boring score. Good, but boring. Anyway, this is a great series all around. At some points, it needs some technical improvements. I think that's the biggest part here. Is from the beginning of the series, it has a really low technical quality, but it improves as the series goes on. And I think that's because the author's knowledge of the Foundry increases, which I guess is what you expect as you make more missions. They get better. But
yeah, it was pretty consistent for gameplay throughout the series as well.
Yeah.
Story just got better and better as you would expect in multi-pass. So especially I think it's part 2 or 3 which really picked up. So yeah, expect it to get really, really good there.
Yeah, It's a great series. As somebody who doesn't play a lot of KDF stuff, so I still only had limited experience with KDF missions. This one, it works. It's definitely a great one to check out, especially after playing the Stouffer Curie arc. Because the one thing I was sad about is everybody on the Cleon side, that guy over there included, is like, oh my god, why don't you love the Cleons? They have the amazing Fakiri arc. And then I have to go, well, you know, that Fakiri arc was great, but it's 4 missions only, and the plot just dropped off. They never picked it back up. Captain Revo did a brilliant job here of taking the strengths of that story and wrapping them up, because honestly, this could be the follow-up to that Fakiri storyline, and it makes it perfectly in there. So definitely go and check out.
A Fed player who doesn't like Klingons is recommending a Klingon series.
Yep. So there we go. Overall, it scored an 8.17, our 7th ranked mission. So pretty good. Thank God! Now back to the Fed side for missions, baby! Oh yeah! Praise the Lord! Hallelujah! Peace out!
We'll see you next week.
I was really going to get a contract rewrite. Hello, I'm Admiral Murphy, the cooler host of Foundry Files, and that's Weeby over there. He's the smellier one, except now this week he might actually smell some... Oh, he still smells British. We're screwed. You good? Say something. Say something. I gotta hear your audio.
Blah.
Talk normal. Say something about Americans, douchebag. Do your best American impression of like us wanting like fried chicken and turkey.
No.
I mean, no. I can do it. I can do it. I'm gonna go out back and shoot me some turkey, and I'm gonna shoot me a gopher pigeon, and I'm gonna go out back with my shotgun just cause I can, cause this is America and we got guns. See, can you do it?
I can, probably not. I don't know. But I'm not going to anyway.
Lame.